The morning sunlight poured through the stained glass windows of the small church, painting colorful patterns across the wooden floor. Outside, flowers swayed gently in the warm breeze, and guests slowly gathered for what was supposed to be the happiest day of a young woman's life. But inside a quiet bridal room, a 26-year-old woman named Seraphina Vale sat alone with tears filling her eyes. Just 30 minutes earlier, her own father had looked at her with disappointment and said something she would never forget. He told her not to embarrass the family. Not on her wedding day. Not in front of everyone. Not by marrying a man he believed was beneath them. What her father didn't know was that the man waiting at the altar carried a secret so enormous that it would change everything before the day was over. Before we begin, if you believe kindness is more important than status, and that people deserve second chances regardless of where they come from, please like this video, comment below, share it with someone who needs a little hope today, and subscribe to the Dad Chronicles for more heartfelt stories that remind us what truly matters in life. Seraphina had spent most of her life trying to earn her father's approval. Her father, Alistair Vale, was one of the most respected businessmen in their city. He owned multiple luxury properties, served on charity boards, and cared deeply about how others viewed the family. To outsiders, he appeared successful, generous, and admired. At home, however, he measured everything through the lens of reputation. The schools his children attended mattered. The clothes they wore mattered. The people they spent time with mattered. Most of all, the family name mattered. Seraphina had grown up hearing the same lesson repeatedly. People would judge her. People would watch her. People would remember every mistake. As a child, she desperately wanted her father to be proud of her. She earned good grades, volunteered at community events, and avoided trouble. Yet nothing seemed enough. There was always a higher standard. Always another expectation. Always another reminder that appearances came first. Everything changed 3 years earlier when she met Rowan Mercer. It happened on a bright afternoon at a neighborhood library. Seraphina had been organizing donated books for a literacy program when a tall young man carrying several heavy boxes walked through the door. He wore simple clothes. His shoes were worn. His pickup truck looked older than most vehicles in the parking lot. Nothing about him suggested wealth or influence. But there was something remarkable about his kindness. He smiled at everyone. He listened carefully when people spoke. He treated elderly volunteers with respect. He stayed late without being asked. Most importantly, he made people feel seen. Over the following months, they crossed paths repeatedly through volunteer projects. Each encounter revealed another layer of his character. When a single mother struggled to repair her roof after a storm, Rowan organized help. When a local shelter ran out of supplies, Rowan quietly delivered what they needed. When someone faced hardship, Rowan somehow appeared. Not for attention. Not for recognition. Simply because he cared. Seraphina found herself drawn to him in a way she had never experienced before. For the first time in her life, she felt accepted exactly as she was. Around Rowan, she didn't have to prove anything. She didn't have to perform. She didn't have to earn affection. She simply existed. And that felt extraordinary. Their friendship slowly became love. When Rowan proposed beside a peaceful lake at sunrise, Seraphina said yes before he even finished asking. It was the easiest decision she had ever made. Unfortunately, her father disagreed. The moment Alistair learned about the engagement, his disappointment became impossible to hide. He investigated Rowan's background. He searched public records. He questioned mutual acquaintances. And what he discovered only reinforced his concerns. Rowan lived modestly. He drove an old truck. He rented a small house. He worked ordinary jobs. At least that was what everyone believed. To Alistair, the conclusion seemed obvious. His daughter was making a terrible mistake. Weeks turned into months filled with tension. Family dinners became uncomfortable. Arguments erupted regularly. Relatives quietly took sides. Some believed Seraphina deserved happiness. Others believed she was throwing away opportunities. Yet despite everything, Rowan remained respectful. He never responded with anger. He never criticized Alistair. He never attempted to defend himself aggressively. Instead, he focused on loving Seraphina. And somehow, that made Alistair even more frustrated. The wedding day finally arrived. Sunlight illuminated the church. Guests filled the pews. Musicians prepared their instruments. Flowers lined the aisle. Everything appeared beautiful. Yet beneath the surface, emotions ran high. Just before the ceremony, Alistair entered the bridal room. For a moment, Seraphina hoped he had come to offer support. Perhaps even a blessing. Instead, he stood silently near the doorway. His expression remained cold. Then he delivered the words that shattered her heart. He warned her not to embarrass the family. He reminded her that important people were attending. He implied she still had time to reconsider. And then he left. The door closed behind him. The room fell silent. Seraphina stared at her reflection in the mirror. Her wedding dress looked perfect. Her makeup looked flawless. But inside, she felt broken. How could a father look at his daughter on her wedding day and see only risk instead of happiness? How could reputation matter more than love? For several minutes she sat quietly. Then something unexpected happened. Her grandmother entered the room. 82-year-old Eleanor Vale moved slowly with the help of a cane, but her eyes remained sharp and full of wisdom. She sat beside Seraphina and gently held her hand. No speech followed. No lecture. Just understanding. Sometimes love arrives not through grand words but through simple presence. After a while, Eleanor smiled. And that smile restored more strength than 1,000 speeches ever could. Soon the ceremony began. Guests stood. Music filled the church. The doors opened. Seraphina stepped into the aisle. Everyone turned toward her. At the far end stood Rowan. The moment their eyes met, every fear seemed smaller. Every doubt became quieter. Every painful word lost its power. She saw only the man she loved. The ceremony progressed beautifully. Vows were exchanged. Promises were made. Tears appeared throughout the audience. Even some of the toughest guests became emotional. Then came the reception. And with it, the surprise that nobody expected. As guests enjoyed lunch, several black luxury vehicles entered the property. Conversations stopped. People stared through the windows. More vehicles followed. Then security personnel emerged. Behind them came executives, investors, and prominent business leaders from across the country. Confusion spread rapidly. Alistair looked particularly puzzled. Why would such influential people arrive at his daughter's wedding? Then one distinguished older gentleman stepped onto the reception stage. He introduced himself. A murmur spread through the crowd. Many recognized his name immediately. He was one of the wealthiest entrepreneurs in the nation. What happened next left everyone speechless. The man announced that Rowan Mercer was not merely a volunteer or an ordinary worker. He was the primary heir to an enormous family enterprise worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Years earlier, Rowan had chosen to live independently. He wanted to understand real people. He wanted to build character without relying on inherited wealth. He wanted relationships based on sincerity rather than money. For that reason, he had kept his background private. The room fell silent. Forks stopped moving. Conversations disappeared. Guests exchanged shocked looks. Alistair's face turned pale. Everything he believed he knew about Rowan suddenly collapsed. Yet the biggest surprise was still coming. The entrepreneur continued speaking. He explained that Rowan had repeatedly declined opportunities to reveal his wealth. He had never used money to impress Seraphina. He had never attempted to buy approval. He had never corrected people who underestimated him. Because the only thing he wanted was genuine love. At that moment, dozens of eyes turned toward the newlyweds. Rowan wasn't smiling triumphantly. He wasn't enjoying revenge. He wasn't humiliating anyone. Instead, he simply held Seraphina's hand. The same way he always had. That single gesture spoke louder than any announcement. The crowd erupted into applause. Some guests stood. Others cried. Even Eleanor wiped tears from her eyes. But one person remained frozen. Alistair. For perhaps the first time in his life, he was forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. He had spent years judging value through appearances. He had mistaken simplicity for weakness. He had confused wealth with worth. Most painfully, he had nearly damaged his relationship with his daughter because of those assumptions. Hours later, as the celebration continued beneath the bright afternoon sky, Alistair found himself standing alone near the garden. Children laughed nearby. Music drifted through the air. Guests celebrated. And for the first time, reputation no longer seemed important. What mattered was the realization that he had failed to see the extraordinary character of the man his daughter loved. Eventually, he approached the couple. No audience surrounded them. No cameras watched. No applause waited. Only honesty remained. Alistair's eyes filled with tears as he looked at his daughter. The words came slowly. But they came. An apology. A real one. The kind that costs pride. The kind that requires courage. The kind that changes lives. Seraphina cried as she embraced her father. Years of hurt did not disappear instantly. But healing finally began. And sometimes that is enough. Before we reach the ending, if this story has touched your heart, please take a moment to like the video, leave a comment, and share it with someone who believes people should be judged by their character, not their status. Special request: comment below with the words, "Character matters," if you believe kindness is more valuable than wealth. As the sun slowly descended across the afternoon sky, golden light bathed the wedding reception in warmth. Families laughed together. Old wounds began healing. New memories formed. And while many guests would forever remember the shocking revelation about Rowan's fortune, that wasn't the true lesson of the day. The real lesson was far more powerful. A rich man had not married a humble woman. A humble woman had loved a man before she knew he was rich. And a father learned that the greatest embarrassment isn't marrying someone society underestimates. The greatest embarrassment is underestimating someone whose heart is worth more than all the money in the world. That evening, as Seraphina and Rowan walked hand in hand into their future, they carried something far more valuable than wealth. They carried trust, respect, forgiveness, and the certainty that true love never needs a bank account to prove its value. Because in the end, character reveals what money never can. And those who learn that lesson are richer than they ever imagined.